Good afternoon, Scott Baker.
Mikey Ames, how are you? Welcome to Lead Better for Thursday, August 14th. And the title of the field note that we're talking about today is Treating Your Team Like a Family. We all like families and we like teams, and so why not work in a place where everybody feels like family?
Do we
Except,
do
wait a
we
minute,
all
most families are really messed up in some way. Do we really want
yeah,
that?
do we like families? Yeah, this
Yeah.
idea of like what metaphor we use has been bouncing around for a little bit, and I think the family metaphor is meeting its match today, right? I don't know that anyone thinks, oh, we definitely. It's almost a trope. Like there's some comedies, some office-based comedies out there that make fun of the idea that you would use the idea of family. So even before we get to it in the field note, I think there's been a pop culture move against it.
Yeah, I think it comes up from time to time, and you even hear it in athletics. People say, "Yeah, we're like a family," and I have seen organizations where people will speak like that. By the way, I live in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where the Pittsburgh Pirates had this motto for a while that we are family, and they would play the Sister Sledge song, and all of that. I do think that there's an interesting element here in this field note that kind of walks through why there's some appeal to this idea, but then really devastates it. Now, the goal of that is not to be like, you should not think of your organization like a family. It's to actually think through, there are some real implications for the way that if you start to even introduce sort of a family dynamic, that things can backfire. And it won't make your organization weaker. I think if you approach it in the way that the field note is talking about, it'll actually make your organization stronger.
Yeah, but is the problem just the use of the metaphor? Is that what introduces the weirdness about it? Or because if we acted like a family without feeling like the goal is to emulate a family, like we're not using the metaphor, we're not using it. Is
Yeah,
there
right.
is the hypocrisy going to come out if all we're doing is acting like good family members, but not necessarily striving for the stated metaphor of it? Is it just I at the end of the day I'm wondering, is it just the use of the metaphor that's the problem? Right?
Well, maybe a bit, and you can overuse any metaphor. You can also overuse the metaphor
Right.
of the team. But the team family sort of dynamic is where this often comes up. In fact, Netflix is kind of known for this. This was in Reed Hastings' book, and you've heard them say, we're not a family, we are a team. Teams can
Right.
be very close. They can be high performance. And there's one main thing that we all would understand in the difference, which would be you've got a family, you could kick somebody out of the family. That's
Yeah.
very tricky to do. It's not the
Right.
thing that you normally do. Whereas in an organization, you often have to get rid of underperformers and people that don't connect and people that aren't collaborative and all of the rest of that. You don't want any organization to feel like we're here for everybody, no matter what, we're here. Because
Right.
you may say, well, we want to have a safe and welcoming environment. Yeah, but that just like wipes out incentive, it wipes out motivation, it's really just an invitation to be like, act however you want, we're not going to get rid of you.
Yeah. Now, that's not what team leaders are going for when they invoke that. Like what
No,
there's
right.
there's some real advantages, and we kind of list them here in the field note, right? Like the idea of true respect and support for
Yeah.
one another unconditionally, regardless of performance or contribution. We want to recognize each other as humans, and we
Hmm.
want to recognize that you've got much more richer lives outside of what you do at work, and so we want to be aware and care for that as well. And so all of those things we wouldn't decline, right?
Hmm.
Those are things that we want to be very aware of. And so the more I talk about it, the more I think just putting it inside the metaphor of family is the thing that allows you to like, I'm going to now take advantage of the
Right.
idea, right? So in every social dynamic, we establish like our role. So my
Hmm.
role in not my immediate family, but the family that I grew up in has
Hmm.
kind of changed. Like I was a bit of the peacemaker when I was growing up in our
Hmm.
family of four when I was growing up. And I guess I'm somewhat that still, but not really so much anymore. I don't like occupy that role.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, if I had to occupy a role, I kind of pride myself, and I don't know if I've wrestled for this or if it's just kind of landed on me, but I'm like the keeper of the memories, right? I'm the one
Okay.
who is the one who is I think it's, in reference to the idea that I'm the one who like will kind of set things straight on how things actually happened back in the day, right? And so I think my role as a storyteller in the family kind of shows up when the four of us are together. And so I kind of just occupy that role. Those kinds of roles kind of emerge naturally in a family setting, right? Is it a different kind? Now, is that like a group dynamic or is that a family dynamic, right? So we have different roles that maybe socially that will emerge on a work team together. And those roles, do they have more to do with a group dynamic, or are they like based on how we are at work, right? What we're doing at work in those roles. And so the reason I'm saying this, how much of those roles are informed by the metaphor that we use, right?
Yeah.
Does a leader really press on people for the type of role that emerges naturally in their life based upon the metaphor that overhangs everything that we do at work?
Yeah.
And if that's the case, maybe that's why it's really important that you use the right metaphor. Maybe not.
Yeah. Well, look, I think, again, I don't want to kick out all metaphors because I think they often are the most powerful things we have. And that's why many of them and many of the stories around them have existed for thousands, if not tens of thousands of years. Right. And so we understand the dynamic of the way social collaboration happens and the need to have units and people come together. I've mentioned this from time to time. I think that one of the things that I see, particularly online, is a lot of people that become influencers in the content creation space tend to be lone wolf content creators. There are some that are part of organizations, but even within that, they're kind of lone wolves. And you often hear people, and I'll give an example of somebody who's brilliant at what they do. So Paul Millard had the book about the pathless path. He's a great writer. He has a second book that I have, but I haven't read yet. And so he's advocating for, like, okay, I was working, I can't remember his whole bio, for this consulting firm and this and that, but I've been able to build this life for myself by coming out and doing it this way. And you see this, and X and YouTube and Instagram reward this kind of thing. Right? So you start to think, well, wait a minute. I don't see a lot of people out there saying, here's how you come together and work together in units inside of a division, inside of a 40,000 person organization. And here's how you actually have a productive life and a rewarding life, because it's when you actually do that that we create the kind of structures that change the universe. Right. And you don't often have somebody saying, I'm going to try to get to the moon. I mean, I want to do it on my own. Yeah. I don't want to do what everybody else. No, you have to come together. And so when you go back and you look at sort of the Homo sapien history, and you look at how there were family units, but then you often had communal units, or maybe knit by blood or whatever that was, and you could stand against the other family unit that was coming from over the other hillside. Clearly, they're evil, right? Now, we're not in that kind of a world, but we still build together. I'm not in the, I don't know how WFH became the slogan of work for home, because it's hard to say any of those letters really fast.
Yes.
I'm in the work from hotel mode today. So I can look out the window of my hotel here at large organizations near Philadelphia, where our company is headquartered. And these people all come together. They work in this big building and then they go home. They're not family, but they may like to work there. Now, sometimes you realize people come together in organizations where everybody realizes we don't really like it here. We don't hardly even like each other. We're getting a good paycheck, so we're going to do this and we're going to get out of here as fast as we can. I think that's suboptimal as well. So I actually do think that the metaphor of the team isn't bad. We're going to draft some top players. We're going to have a way that we do it. This is the way that is our ethos. It's well defined. You either fit in here or you don't. And if you don't, you're gone. We're not a family. We're a team. And I think that one probably comes together a little bit better.
I think so too. I think in the comments this morning, someone mentioned the idea of maybe neighbors is a good metaphor as well.
Okay.
Which led me to the idea of community is maybe a little bit better. I don't know if everything works inside of a work structure to call somebody your neighbor in that kind of way. It's funny that in classrooms these days, I've got a few friends who are elementary school class teachers, and they all use friends. Like they don't refer to their students as students. Like when they're calling somebody out, they say, hey friend, right?
Yeah.
And friends is this metaphor that they're consistently using. But again, I don't think that it really applies to everything that we're doing. If you're addressing all the friends, to just say we're all friends here, there's not as much of a an applicable way to talk about it.
I'm not against friends. I'm not against neighbors. I think if I were in an organization and everybody's like, hey, neighbor, and again, I'm from Pittsburgh, where we're famous for Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, and I'm all for friends. But I think if I were in a workplace where they were like, hey, friend, or I heard leaders say, hey, fam, and I'm like, no, we're not. Like, I'm going to leave and go look for another place to work. Right.
Yes.
So I think it's better if you're like, we're coming together, we're here to do a thing. I really like you. I don't like this person that much, but I respect them. So I'm going to find a way to get along with them. Now, the field note, by the way, then lists a few of the things, if you overdo the family metaphor, are the problems, right? It can be in this blurring of personal and professional. People can sort of feel like, I can't disappoint the family. And so you can burn out, right? Now, I think you could do the same thing for a team. So I think some of the negatives here could apply the same way. But I think you have a little bit of a different distance because just on that one, it's the fact, especially if you're using the athletic metaphor, you can't go in the red line all the time, or you're going to actually not be on the field. Like you're gonna be in a coma in the tent, right? So you've got to pace yourself and how you're best contributing to the team. So that's just one example. And sometimes people, and the second one that's listed is the idea that if you feel like you're going to have an exaggerated sense of family, people will have this thing like, I can't let the family down, right? And again, it's a kind of a different version of burnout, which is there's a stress or a dissatisfaction that can come into play. The third one is that it can create reactions of hypocrisy if they see leaders or other people in the organization not acting like a family. So if you've been in an organization, and they probably tend to be smaller, right? A family business, and you start to sort of see the drift over. I just think from the get-go, it's not the way to set it up.
Right. No, and that accusation being there is on any group that calls themselves a family, right? As soon as they start acting like not a family, you talk about that all the time, that we're a family. And here, now that you have to do layoffs, like where do layoffs exist in a family, right? And it's a hard question to answer, especially if you're using it all the time. So layoffs do exist on teams, right? But it's all you're doing is saving yourself the accusation that it's hypocrisy, that you say that we're this way. And in an athletic structure, layoffs happen all the time, right? People get cut.
Absolutely.
People don't make the team, right?
Now, in this time of concern over population continuation and in various countries around the world, you have 6 kids, I have 5 kids. So we've done our job to kind of repopulate the planet and sort of, and so we've seen various degrees of of behavior within these structures. So obviously Mikey and I are the wisest ones to give advice on all of this.
Yeah,
but I do think that in the counter family literature and in the field notes actual admonition, there is this interesting element, which is that helps you both in the organization and in the family, which is, if you have this family environment, you may actually be hesitant in the way that you're giving feedback, right? So you may be like, I don't want to hurt their feelings. I can't be this brutal to them, whatever it is. And so you're not really pushing them to get better in the way that you would like to if you were not using the family metaphor. Now, we actually do say that if you're an admired leader and you're using, say, the feedback behaviors that are in our main platform, that you should be actually having, people will be like, we've never had a fight, we've never had a disagreement. Well, too much harmony is not the ideal. You need truth and harmony together, and you need some degree of like, well, wait a minute, who are you trying to be? Because I would want my wife to want me to be better every day. And I think that she would want me to want her to be better every day. So sometimes that leads to real communication. And yet all of a sudden, when we get those things into a work environment, then it gets real tricky. And I
Yeah.
think that you can have this thing to say, we just need to be good at giving feedback and good at having really blended relationships that are in this balance of truth and harmony, whether it's in the family environment or in the work environment. But I
Yeah.
do think that from the beginning, there's a wonderful idea that you should be able to go to work, give it your all, go all in. That doesn't mean that the boss can call you at 12:30 in the morning and keep you up all night, unless it's an emergency. And that's where I like the idea. Seth Godin always uses the term enrollment. And so it's like, I'm signing up for this voluntarily because I really want to. I like what you're doing. I like what we're building together, whatever that is. And I'm here because of that. And so if it becomes anything where I feel trapped or obligated or beaten down or that all of a sudden, do we all have to go to family therapy just because we're in a workplace? No, we don't have that.
Right. No, and sometimes we're just not aware of how deeply our metaphors are embedded into the way that we think as well, right? And so this is a little touchy, but from a religious point of view, the idea that some people refer to God as their heavenly Father, and it seems like a really healthy metaphor, except for that group of people who have an absentee father, and their version of what a father is completely backwards. And if all you're doing is speaking in that one metaphor, and you forget oftentimes that it is a metaphor, it could actually do a lot of damage. So even with the team metaphor, right, there's probably ways that you should intentionally distance, even if you think team is the best metaphor we can have. There may have been people who all through their junior high and high school careers who've been cut from their teams, right?
Yeah.
So just be careful that you don't allow your team metaphor to be the all-encompassing thing where you don't realize there's a lot of people who have maybe a really negative reaction to the idea of you importing the athletic metaphor all the time. So and at the end of the day, we're not looking for a perfect metaphor. We're actually looking for the values that we want to that are evoked by the use of a metaphor. So go for those values instead of the metaphor itself, and maybe be flexible with the metaphors.
Go in peace. May the metaphors be with you.
Okay, great. That was great. All right.